say 20 bedrooms and 300 acres as your back garden or something like that, who's going to look after it? It might sound very nice to have a house like that, but remember, we're not going to have servants and skivvies under socialism. So this person, these people, they move into their large stockbroker houses under socialism, and then a little bit of dust appears on the furniture. A few days later, the dust gets thicker, and they start dusting these things, and they think, oh yeah, but I've only done this bedroom. I've got another 19 bedrooms still to dust. Maybe a few months later, they think to themselves, wasn't such a good idea having this huge... Well, I could have had, I've only got 2 kids. There are only 3 or 4 people in my family. There's a more modest-sized house, or perhaps even a flat down the road. So I don't see that this is going to be any significant problem under socialism, apart from what's already been mentioned by in the fact that a socialist society will have completely different priorities, housing and feeding the poor and giving us all decent living standards. Those will be far more important than thinking about building big houses and sports cars.
Okay, right. The last contribution from the floor.
Yeah, I've got a question about the events of this week, or the last 10 days or so. The mainstream media has portrayed the last week in Wall Street and on the City as being a mini collapse of capitalism. I'm interested to know what your two movements make of it, whether you see it as a sort of mini collapse and as some kind of opportunity, or just as an irrelevance and just a blip in capitalism.
Yeah, I think capitalism is endlessly adaptable. I never saw it as a crisis in capitalism. It's really weird because at the same time as the stock market was crashing, Lehman Brothers and the rest of the going down the Swanee, I was actually at Sotheby's looking at Damien Hirst exhibition. And the amount of greed and acquisitiveness on it, there was a couple of sort of yuppie types that didn't know anything about art, and the Sotheby's lackeys, and all these who's of the kind really made of solid gold. Oh yes, he was writing it all down ready for a corporate bid. So they went for 110 million. I mean, people had taken their money out of stocks and shares, stuck them to Damien Hirst, into Banksy, into gold, you know, and they'll do a switch back again when everything's easy. So it was never the collapse of capitalism and the great, you know, the way it was portrayed as the most shocking day since the last most shocking day. And I've never thought anyway that, you know, that the working class will be bounced into socialism by abject misery, you know, they're really impoverished. And just as likely to go in the opposite direction to fascism as we are to suddenly become socialist because of the economic circumstances. So yeah, that's just an answer to your question. I might as well pick up the other California person. My dad was a butler, so I'm interested in the abolition of servants. But it's your theory that the capitalist class will give up their wealth because of too much dust, or my theory that they give up their wealth because they're strung up from the fucking rafters of their mansion. I think I know which is the more realistic comment.
Yeah, I completely agree with Ian's answer to the question about the sort of economic crisis so-called over the last week or two. Can I just add a couple of things? The Socialist Party has always said that the capitalism goes through a boom-slump cycle. I mean, it's impossible to foresee quite when a boom will end and the slump will begin, etc. And we don't know at the moment whether, you know, the slump isn't going to get deeper. Just because there seems to be a sort of rescue and shares have gone up this week, who knows what the future holds. But if you compare what's happened this week to what happened in 1929, you know, the world slump that began then, what happened then was that basically governments didn't rescue the stock market, they didn't rescue the banks, etc. What governments now have done is apparently rescued them. and it's a slightly different way of going about things. But can I say that this is very much in line with the view that the Socialist Party has always taken of the state. What's the role of the state? The role of the state is to support capitalism, to keep it going. In various different ways. The state collects these taxes from the capitalist class in order to fund the system. It doesn't collect taxes from the working class, although it might seem that they do. They collect taxes from the capitalist class. And what they're doing now is spending some of those taxes, and they'll probably need to raise more from the capitalist class in order to shore up these banks that have collapsed. So it's simply, what's happened this last week is simply another example of the capitalist class taking action on behalf of the government taking action on behalf of a certain section of the capitalist class to support the capitalist system as a whole. Whether they will succeed or not in sort of achieving the kind of balance that maybe has existed over the last sort of 20 or 30 years, it's hard to know. Maybe in the end it won't work and there will be another crash as in the late 20s and early 30s. It remains to be seen. But no, I mean, this is the kind of thing that happens within capitalism, and you know, it's not the kind of situation, as Ian has just said, which will somehow lead to sort of great radicalism among workers. You know, it could, as Ian said, it could just as well lead to sort of, you know, to fascism as to some kind of sort of higher consciousness.
Right. So we're nearing the end. So I suggest give both speakers a final chance to raise or come back to any points they want to. And then we call it an end. So, do you have anything you want to further say? Very briefly?
Yeah, why is Brian fled after his desire to take control of the state was really exposed?
They're using his cornflakes.
Brian, obviously some discussion that we had within the Socialist Party about Britain and the role of the state. So you fled after your attempt to take over the state was defeated. Comrade, the point raised right at the back about Chavez and the other one, what's the other one? Yeah, I mean they weren't, as you say, people weren't based there. People were shouting at Ceausescu before stringing him up, weren't saying give us a ballot. They were saying you toe rag who's opposed us for this, your time is up, you're going to get what's coming there. And Chavez, you know, although you know we can argue about Chavez being a socialist or not, in fact, you know, the tactic was he was physically, you know, the coup was physically defeated. It wasn't defeated by calling for a ballot. I mean, that said, I mean, I'm sure within the Socialist Party, the arguments always come back to these things, and your point about Allende was well made as well. I mean, I'm trying to think of other examples, and perhaps I think off the top of the Grenadian revolution, the Americans were using Grenada when there was a popular revolution there. But I'm sure you're so used to, you know, all these arguments around seizing control of the state, the ballot box and stuff. I would like to return to the complementary bits of what I started with. So I do think that the SPGB have got an articulated vision of socialism which is humanistic and caring and loving and words like that, which are rarely used. And I think you need to hang on to that, and I respect your ability over the 100 years or whatever not to get sidetracked and ending up as nasty vanguard Trotskyists, so respect for that kind of
Very much. Right, well, there's snacks and nibbles and things upstairs. There's a manky old hat going round that you can put money in if you like.